You're listening to the DRiVE podcast, where the automotive industry comes to stay ahead of the curve. With your host, author, and head of innovation, Frankie Russo. Okay, welcome back to another episode of DRiVE University. This is the podcast that allows all of the automotive industry to come together with some of the most innovative minds to try to solve the problems that the automotive industry is facing today, and do that as a community. And today I've got somebody that I've always enjoyed chatting with. We got to catch up at NADA this year in Las Vegas, and that's Francis Gojcaj. Francis, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Frankie.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So, real quick, give me a quick synopsis for myself and the people that are listening and watching. What's some of your background and what got you to where you are today with launching your own startup, Lender Auto?
Yeah, well, I've been in the auto business going on about 20 years now. Started off at Volkswagen Credit in remarketing, selling end-of-lease vehicles. Went through customer service, collections, you name it, over at Chrysler Financial. Went through a different various roles there while I was at the captive. Transitioned over to Route 1, worked over there for several years as well, working through the credit application technology platform, working with dealers and lenders. And then moved over to Cox Automotive, and that's where you and I met years ago, helping various companies build technology from DMS, CRM, desking, equity mining, digital retailing, website platforms, you name it. I've been a part of a lot of what you see today in the marketplace, anything that really involves a new car transaction. And then in November, a few months back, we decided to step away and start a company. My partner, Will Blackson, and I, he was also with me at Cox Automotive, and we started Lender Auto. We've seen a need for this business for a lender dedicated marketplace. And so we formed this company, like I said, a few months ago.
I love that. And so you and I were talking, so we're going to don't let me forget. I want to talk a little bit about what you mean by lender dedicated marketplace. But before we do that, tell me what you're seeing out there, because there's a lot of dealers that are listening to this or watching, and they're feeling frustrated with this whole digital retailing wave that we've had. COVID, everybody got excited. OEM started making it kind of this mandated thing. So now a lot of dealerships are feeling like it's just kind of an expense, or it's just there. Some like it, some don't. I think that has a lot to do with the it has a lot to do with the varying levels of effectiveness that tools are currently having. I mean, do you feel like we're too early in the game with digital retailing, and what's it going to take to really create the type of experience that I think dealers were hoping for in the original digital retailing wave?
Well, I think the term digital retail in itself is kind of an abused word, Frankie.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we've seen is that in a pre-COVID world, it meant many things to a lot of people. It could be showing a payment online to offering the Amazon Prime type of experience, right, where you're taking a white glove delivery at your home, right? But really in a post-COVID world, I think it really comes down to a couple things. It's really either a lead or it's a transaction. Mm-hmm. Although a lot of companies are out there still talking about the transaction and being, focused on the transaction, I think what you're seeing today in the marketplace is still sitting on most of the lead, right? So I've had a lot of opportunity in the past few years to work with OEMs. And, what I found working with the OEM is that they're really, starting to bridge together that tier 1 to tier 3 strategy, focused on their customer base, building a platform that allows your consumer or their consumer to start on a tier 1 and then integrate into a tier 3 experience, right? So whether you're on tier 1 or tier 3, you're going to see a more of a uniformed experience from the OEM. You'll see that's what you're finding today. A lot are gearing toward building, or they're partnering with specific partners where they're offering one platform on tier 1 and a different on tier 3. But at least the information that starts on tier 1 will pass over to tier 3. With that being said, you're starting to notice that other platforms, right? So you've got your OEM site, you've got your dealer website. Now you're starting to see the various
marketplaces having it.
Marketplaces,
yeah,
starting to migrate. A great example of this.
Well, isn't that what TrueCar had? Isn't that kind of TrueCar's original model?
Yeah, but
they were early on that, right?
And there's a lot of little intricacies here that, when we're talking about a transaction, selling a car online, a
Yeah.
true end-to-end experience, there are a lot of little details that matter, right?
Yeah.
And as I was just mentioning now, you can see that, cars that just purchased Credit IQ, kind of like an AutoFi platform, right, to help with the
Yeah.
transaction side of things. They've also acquired AccuTrade, right, because of the the trade process.
Component. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's not
Because
easy,
it's
right?
it's 4 or 5 processes all in one, right? You've got warranty, you've got you've got these OEM incentives and offers, you've got the credit piece, you've got the trade value, you've got the taxes and insurance. I mean, there's so many different components, taxes and
Yeah.
title.
Yeah. And as you know, I think, and coming from my background, spent, about 5 years overseeing the business development side for rebates and incentives, right? Little data like that,
Yeah.
makes a big difference, right? Because these are the things that can, really kill a deal, right? You're looking at if
Well,
you
and
have the
especially because you're saying because the experience goes south when they did this transaction online, all of a sudden they're getting a phone call saying it's $50 more or $100
exactly,
more, and they
exactly,
feel like and they have no choice. The sad thing is that I think the impression of dealerships over years has kind of like corroded a bit. It's gotten maybe a little bit better with more priority around new cars, but in general, people have this stigma around the car dealership, and so when you have those experiences go south, it's bone crushing to a dealership because people just assume, oh, they're trying to pull something when really it's just something with the handoff that was mishandled in the process, which is so painful. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, that's right. And look,
Okay.
at the end of the day, right now, I think, are we there yet? Are we to that point where we're ready to see your full end-to-end experience? We're headed there, right? But
Yeah.
is there a perfect landscape that really allows for this end-to-end transaction, especially at a dealer level? I don't think so, because there's different companies out there that offer specialized APIs or technology, but the dealerships are using different DMSs, different
I
CRMs,
know. Yeah.
and that's the part, right? So really, I think what we can do as an industry is maybe look at more collaboration, data sharing, things like that, so that we can all live in the same world and kind of have or
Otherwise, dealerships are going to be forced to have these monopoly relationships with one vendor, which nobody likes, because if you have a monopoly relationship with one vendor, even like with Cox Automotive, like if you're all bought into Cox Automotive, even within that company, as you know, and I'm not going to talk bad about Cox, great company, but the fact is there's still some holes there. When we built our system, it was because of that. I mean, I originally built the CXM because I saw that one of the biggest issues in the business was that there wasn't a lot of sharing. And then when it was shared, it was dirty. So if you can normalize and clean up data and bring it together, that's a business by itself. And that's been the business we've been in. But do you think that it's the DMS in the end? To me, it seems like the DMS is who will win the digital retailing battle in the end if they can figure out, because I feel like there's website companies that are getting into it. There's standalone companies, there's all these different people kind of jumping into it. We've built a retail tool, but I don't feel like anybody has kind of had that like hard close true desking. And I feel like, I just feel like a DMS company is going to have to be a part of that.
well, I think it really comes down to the expectation, right? Is the future, and do we know for certain that every the majority of customers are going to want that end-to-end experience, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think research shows 70% of the customers want to touch and feel that vehicle before they actually buy it, right? So I think really what it comes down to is how we can perfect, whether it's, if there's 5 steps, 4 of the 5 steps before delivery, or if we can make sure that that data is flowing properly, kind of from the start of the consumer journey all the way to the end, where there's e-contracting, but yet there's still a physical delivery or something along those lines. Again, I think that everyone's vision is this end-to-end bucket, right? This seamless process. We go on Amazon today, we point, click, and
Right.
buy.
And we have one single contact at the dealership and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And just keep in mind, I mean, and there's the indirect lending, and then there's direct lending. When you're dealing with through indirect, you're talking about shopping online, going in through a dealer's Route One or Dealer Track, multiple lenders are on that platform. Selecting the lender, receiving your call back, deciding who you're going to go through. I mean, these are different parts of the workflow that are considered. And then, not to mention every other little thing we talked about before. Now, if you're doing a direct purchase where, hey, I find a vehicle, I want to buy it, and I want to wire you some money, or here's a check, right, through a lender, it's a little bit different. But there's still work that has to be done, especially at a dealership.
Yeah, excellent. So, all right, let me ask you this. So, when it comes to the single contact, right, single point of contact, everybody's trying to go for. What's the latest and greatest that you're hearing? You're talking to a lot of dealers. I know you've been at more conferences than I have got to go to this year. What are you hearing about that? Are people still like really heavily trying to make that happen, or have they kind of scaled that back a bit and they're okay with the status quo?
I think it's almost like digital retailing, right? It's thinking you want to build this end all be all, but this is a really unique business we're in, right? I've been working with dealers for
there's a
20
reason why it's done a certain way for a long time. So it's not changing that is not going to be some sort of quick process. Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard to say that Reynolds or CDK are going to go anywhere, and Techion's a newcomer, right? And I've got a
what do you think about them? I mean, their presentation's fancy. Are they everything that they're saying?
They do a really good job of putting together a package. I'd be lying to you if I told you that I've played around with the system.
Right.
I've got a partner that owns a dealer group and uses them and is very happy with them.
Okay.
So it really comes down to, I think, personal preference. And I think, you're going to have, again, those who want that one environment solution that does everything. Then you're going to have one that says, hey, look, I think that vAuto is excellent. I like what they do here. I like, my VIN CRM, or I like, my DRiVE CRM, or, whatever different CRM they're using, or desking tool they're using, or third-party digital retailing platform they're using. I think at the end of the day, you're going to have some that want all, and you're going to have those who also want the best of,
the flexibility.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So tell me about the lender marketplace deal. I was fascinated when you mentioned this. What is this vision that is kind of really, I think, untapped so far?
Yeah. So working, with the different OEMs and the lenders and the marketplaces and the dealer groups over the years, one of the things I noticed, especially in a post-COVID environment, was that, the OEM is really geared toward efficiency, right? They're really geared toward taking Frankie, Russo, putting them in a vehicle, and making sure that there's transparency along the way, that there is efficiency, that you can buy this car, quickly, and being compliant. But at the same time, you're starting to see these other portals. I kind of talked about, you mentioned TrueCar earlier. The car gurus, the auto traders are really looking at the transaction versus the lead, right? How they can capture and generate as much information on you as possible as you're looking to buy this vehicle, or even provide a real-time payment online. And then what these folks are doing is they're working with specific lenders, right? But if you go to any given dealership, they've got 10 or 12 different lenders, 13 lenders, 5 lenders, you name it, but they've got multiple lenders on their platform that they work with through an indirect process. The question really becomes, if everything is moving toward online, what happens to the lender, right? Those lenders are going to start to lose share, or that look to book to see that credit application, if these apps are being geared toward, let's call it a captive only, or maybe a few others, right? So if you look at any given lender, for example, they could have 50 million customers. They've got their own database of consumers, right, that are credit card, checking, savings customers, mortgage, for example, a lot of them with auto loans, right? So that way they can tap into their own marketplace and their own customer base, and mine their current customer base that are in auto, right? Or they can, go after and have a conquest strategy to bring other shoppers in from, credit cards into auto, and then provide a marketplace, right? Some of these lenders have 5,000 and 10,000 dealers across America. So basically they can provide their inventory to their customers through their dealer partners, and provide that shopping experience and get to their consumers before their consumers are shopping on other portals.
Wow. So that's something that I'm guessing you've already got some of the banking industry, the big names involved, like looking at that, and they're open to it.
Yeah, we're a startup, but we've moved a lot more quickly than I thought we would have. Working with several major lenders right now, And really, this has kind of turned into more than just a lender marketplace, but there's other spectrums. A lot of these lenders are into RV, motorsports, etc. A lot of lenders you'll start to look into they call the digital bank, right? There's the digital bank and becoming a digitized business, but there's also looking at how the marketplace fits within that process. So, Lender Auto, the background of the company is there was a marketplace in existence under our VC firm, Mad Dog Venture Capital here, called Deliver My Ride, right? So they were a portal just like a cars.com, Auto Trader, for example, and we're getting ready for a national launch. When we came in, we said, hey, look, let's shift the focus. Let's dedicate this service more to the lenders. And then we create, a custom experience for each lender that we work with within this marketplace. But, being that our background, so our founder, Pete Carmanos, owned CompuWare. And CompuWare was a huge software company out of Detroit, over 50 years in the business, worked with, various OEMs and government institutions, building various technologies. So it's not like we're bringing in the automotive experience. We've got the backbone of tech. So we can build, the marketplace has already been in existence for several years. Now we're looking at how can we make this business more efficient? And there's more to it than just providing a marketplace. It also goes down to the transaction, goes into e-contracting, it goes into, currency. I mean, there's a lot more that is still yet to be uncovered in this space that I think you're going to see change over the next several years.
Wow. All right, here's a fun question. So if you have we're switching gears for a second. You have a garage. You got all the money you ever wanted. What's your dream car that's in the garage? Like not your main cars. What's that third car or fifth car, or however many you do it? What's the one like kind of unicorn car that you'd want?
Well, I would say for me, and it's I'm a big guy, as you know, but I grew up with a father who loved cars, anything from exotic sports cars to your classics. But I think if you see me do something in the future, you're going to find me get a Pantera.
Nice.
Change, have you ever seen a Pantera yet?
Yeah.
Di Tommaso. It was my father's car. He used to, there was my brother and I at the time, and my mother. We used to drive in this two-seat sports car to church on Sundays, and at this time I wasn't so big, but I'd sit right in the middle where he's shifting. But it was always a car. It was always kind of crossed between like a Lamborghini or Ferrari when you looked at it, right?
Yeah.
But I've just been obsessed with that car
Classic.
since I was a child, and I think that would be one that I'd take and build all over again if I had a chance.
I love it. So in general, before we close, what do you see as like, any category really within automotive, what's the possibility for disruption that you see, if in the industry? What do you see as what to be looking for? You see a lot of stuff. You've been through a lot of stuff. What do you think is like the biggest disruption that's coming in the automotive industry?
Well, I think that, the inevitable is you're looking at EV, right? You're looking at autonomous vehicles. I think these are the things that are kind of taking over on the news. I think what you're not seeing is what's going to be coming in the blockchain environment, technology.
I was about to ask you that when you were talking about the lender piece.
So
yeah, how are we going to handle that?
Well, there's just look at the titling process, for example, state by state. They're all ran individually, but just look at the inefficiency at that level and how long things take. I mean, you've heard stories about dealers and horror stories about customers trying to get titles. I mean, we have so much room for improvement, right? And there's just different things that can be done. Just look at tracking the title when it's coming from an OEM and how it touches hands and customers, right? And data and information. And we're in that information age, right? Data's worth more than gold. There's just so much more that we can do better as an industry. But I think it requires cooperation from the people, the dealers, right? The OEMs, the government, etc. But I think if I had to guess that you're going to see, and I don't want to call it disruption. I think it's a good thing. It needs to happen. It's just when.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, once again, Francis, Lender Auto, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a pleasure. I'm definitely going to have you back on. I want to continue to kind of keep hitting you up to see, what's happening, what's next, what's exciting, but always a pleasure, Francis.
Thank you, Frankie. Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
Buddy. Have a good one.
Yes.